I am resident of Hollywood for YouTube. That is my buddy Gordon Dymowski. That is my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review Batman Returns, starring Michael Keaton. Michelle Pfeiffer is in this as Catwoman. My God. Danny,
No.
Danny DeVito is in
No.
this as Penguin. Gordon's already saying no. We got Christopher Walken in this movie as well. So, Gordon, when did you first see Batman Returns?
Well, I first saw Batman Returns when it came out.
Oh, cool. Patrick?
I saw BM Returns in 1992 in the theaters that summer. It was weird seeing a winter Christmas-oriented movie. And forget it's Die Hard at Christmas. It is Batman Returns a Christmas movie. I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it ends with a wish for Merry Christmas. And yet Citizen Kane begins with Christmas. Actually begins with a newsreel, but that's neither here nor there. But there are definite echoes of Citizen Kane in this movie intentionally. Yeah. Anyway, I saw it that summer. It was the big early summer release of 92. And what a release it was. What shocked me, are you familiar with the TV show Cheers?
Yes, somewhat.
Okay. Now, you know Carla, the barmaid, right?
Yeah,
Rhea Perlman.
Yeah.
She was married to Danny DeVito. And he had made a made-for-cable movie called The Ratings Game, which I think was maybe the first made-for-HBO movie. And Rhea was in it, and she was often with him in things. So I was frankly shocked and appalled she did not play Catwoman in this. And when I see that Catwoman outfit and when I see Rhea Perlman, my mind can't help but do a little math.
Yeah. Gordon, what did you think of Michael Keaton as Batman?
I thought he was a good Batman.
Yeah.
I think he's given a little bit more to do in terms of acting in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think that now that it's kind of the second run through, there's a little bit more of a confidence in his performance, where it doesn't feel like because when Burton cast Keaton, and he said this publicly, he wasn't casting Batman, he was casting Bruce Wayne, which is why he didn't go with like a Clint Eastwood, kind of a more traditional hero type. And I think Keaton kind of comports himself admirably in the role.
Yes, he does, but it is a totally new interpretation of Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tim can get away with that. That's like in the weird vibe of Dark Shadows category rhetoric. It's like, well, yeah, okay, it sounds good, and I think I know what he means. But when you break it down and think about it, it only means something in the Tim Burton context. So if you thought Dark Shadows had a strange vibe before, wait till you see the Burton version.
Yeah.
And if you thought he was casting Bruce Wayne, okay, he is, but it isn't, and there's nothing wrong with what I'm about to say, but it is an entirely new interpretation of Bruce Wayne that I've never seen. I mean, it is frankly much closer to the Clark Kent of Christopher Reeve, meaning, much smoother, but still the last guy you would expect, which is classic Scarlet Pimpernel type stuff. But it was not exactly the Neil Adams Bruce Wayne I had gotten used to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Gordon, let me ask you a question. When he said I was casting Bruce Wayne, what do you think his vision for Bruce Wayne was?
I think he was looking for kind of a quirky, kind of slightly insecure guy, kind of like his usual lead, not like a man-child, but someone who was kind of dealing with stuff that when he gets into the Batman suit, he becomes hyper competent. I mean, this is the same guy who thought, hey, you know who should play Superman? Nicolas Cage.
I agree with you. Let me point something out chronologically. That if we exclude Frankenweenie and Vincent, he had only made 2 films prior to this.
Right.
So he was really establishing the Burton motif, I think, more than following up this. So it's an interesting way to look at this. This is, Burton Begins as much as it is Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question. Was Alec Baldwin ever considered?
Do you want my opinion? I'm curious to get Gordon's thoughts on this.
See, I don't know if he was in the running. I could see based on, like, ultimately he did The Shadow, and I think he's good in The Shadow.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. Whether he was considered, I don't know. Do I think he would make a pretty good Batman at that time? I think, yeah, he probably could have, but it'd be a more traditional Bruce Wayne, a more traditional kind of rich person, maybe dealing with some of the trauma of having his parents' kid. He wouldn't be your traditional quirky proto Burton type.
Yeah. I have very strong opinions on this.
Good.
I think a version of the following is the most likely story. Now, I'm arriving at this through inductive reasoning, so it's full of shit. But just go with it anyway. So, Beetlejuice comes out. It's a big hit. And Warner's executives, who have Burton on some sort of contract, or at least have his number in the Rolodex, call him up and say, Tim, what a movie! What a risky, interesting movie that looked great for not much money. We love you, Tim. Tim, we want your Beetlejuice team to make Batman. I know. And you can even make it a period piece. Set it in the 1940s. We'll tell Anton first to start designing for that. And Tim says, that's great. Who do you want me to get? Who else? That magnificent guy in Beetlejuice. He was perfect for the part. Okay. So there's a press release and there's a press conference and they introduce the new Batman, Michael Keaton. And the world goes, huh. And they get an introduction to what has become a national pastime now, which is rationalizing bad mistakes that Hollywood makes when handling, I hate to use the F word, Gordon, franchises and intellectual properties and all of that stuff, where they reduce these things to franchises and intellectual properties by taking everything that we love out of them. Now, as Bat fans, we had wandered through the desert since 1969, I think, when Adam West went off the air. And some of us were still West fans, but we knew this wasn't Batman. But a lot of them carried this paranoia around with them that this was all the public would think of Batman. Oh, how horrible. Kind of the way we feel about Barnabas Collins and Johnny Depp. So we finally had our chance. We had seen what Christopher Reeve could do. Hell, we'd seen what Reb Brown could do. So, okay, now give us Batman. And instead, we're having to go, well, yeah, I guess if you give him a toupee and let him look serious and this and that, maybe there are a few shots in Mr. Mom where he turns the right direction and we can, and it was really bad. I mean, it sucked. We had just gotten The Dark Knight a few years before. I mean, the purest goddamn Batman you're ever going to get. And that's what we wanted. And this is what we got. So I think then someone at Warner said, Mr. Burton, what did you do? He said, I got the Beetlejuice guy. Yeah, we meant Alec Baldwin. He's muscular. He's suave. He's mean. He's handsome. He'd look great as Bruce Wayne. He'd look great in the suit. He clearly can do lighthearted everyman type, Jimmy Stewart type stuff, because we saw him do that in Beetlejuice, and we know he can be smooth and suave, because of some people he beat up. So,
Well,
we got this guy.
Patrick, I
Yeah.
think you're actually missing one important piece, and it's the
Give
piece
it to me.
that
Lay it on
blows
me.
up your entire argument.
Blow it up. Blow it up. Be Howard Rourke. Blow it up.
It's a little film directed by Glenn Gordon Caron, the guy who brought us Moonlighting, called Clean and Sober.
Clean and Sober was released after this was announced, I think. Or was
But it was made
88?
before.
It was made before. And Clean and Sober was the thing that people held up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Alec Baldwin could have developed a drinking problem and gotten it cleared up. Maybe.
And it also could have just simply been like, by the time they said, "Hey, let's get Alec Baldwin," oh wait, he's doing another film. So,
for a film this size, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. That's probably what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't my story make sense? I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world. There's your Batman. Not Beetlejuice. Had I been the head of Warner Brothers, I would have been a Harold Gould character in a hospital by the end of the day, sort of foaming at the mouth and yet somehow dying of heart palpitations at the same time. Gordon, I don't know where you were as a comics fan at the time, but holy cow, was I mad. I wasn't like Rumpelstiltskin or something, but it really was my first introduction to here's Hollywood. After decades of the industry setting a standard on good casting, not quirky casting, but good casting. I mean, it'd be like getting the guy who starred in Steptoe and Son to be the new James Bond. Having said that, Michael Keaton was fantastic. And coming back and watching him 30-something years later, he's a revelation. He's absolutely golden. I love Michael Keaton. He's the best thing in these movies.
What did you guys think of Danny DeVito as the Penguin? George?
On advice of legal counsel, I refuse to answer the question on the grounds that it may incriminate me. No,
I think luscious. He's nature's most erotic creature.
I think he, in the role, he's good.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's abandoned, and he's, I do question the makeup, mostly because I think it just feels like it's very proto-Burton. Let's make it as weird as possible. And I understand the narrative reason for it. I just kind of feel like it's, I mean, I have to be honest. I know Patrick really likes Batman Returns. I don't think.
Did I ever say I really liked it?
I think you said something to the effect of you thought it was, a good movie.
It's a decent movie, yeah. It certainly is Citizen Kane compared to Batman.
Okay, but I think DeVito's good, and I think he's got a real, he brings something to the role. But I think it's it feels like this is the start of Burton's being quirky for the sake of being quirky. There's really no need to have Danny DeVito in the makeup other than let's put him in makeup. But I see where Burton was coming from with it.
Yeah, this is a character I have very little connection to.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's kind of a criminal and he does things with umbrellas and he likes penguins and his name's Oswald Cobblepot. Other than that, his Dick Tracy like grotesquerie is one of the oddest things in Batman. It's one of the only places where someone gets anthropomorphic for no good reason. You know, I mean, everyone else is misshapen through one accident or another. Oswald Cobblepot just doesn't look like a human. You know, I mean, what is this? And you know, it's really kind of disappointing. It's like in Dick Tracy, we understand that because the entire universe is grotesque. Dick Tracy is grotesque, as a figure. But in this, so I have very little connection to him. I mean, you know, he to me is more of a collection of affectations than behaviors. So, you know, I mean, I identify with him, but all seriousness aside, I still don't feel like I've seen the actual Penguin, the Penguin origin, the whole penguinic thing. And you're right. It is Burton, like, it's like he's still doing stuff to please professors at CalArts. Hey, here's my sketchbook for what I do with Batman. Oh, Tim, that's good. He'll never get that job. That's good. You're so artistic. He'll become a costume designer now. You know, which is what I think they would tell him today. What I would have told him.
Oh,
seriously. I mean, you look at his stuff, you don't want to be a set designer because everything will fall apart. Become a costume designer, Tim. It's safer. It's soft. If it falls on someone, nothing's going to happen.
I feel there's somewhat, like, I love DeVito's performance. He does a great job. But I feel also with the story that they give you with Penguin, it's like I'm waiting for this guy to be more of a gangster than a politician. Though it's like, I get what they were going for with their story, because you have the character of Max Strepp, who's, you know, played by Christopher Walken, which Walken is as much as a villain as Penguin is, if not more so.
Yeah.
And, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but this movie feels to me, and at least with, you know, kind of comparing it to the first film, like Batman Returns is starting to feel a little overstuffed because it's doing quite a bit. Like with the original Batman film, and I was actually thinking about this today in preparing for our discussion. The first film, basically Batman and Joker are set as opposites. But they're also, you know, but it's basically I made you, you made me. But their lives are intertwined, and it's a little too much because it's a little too screenplay-ish. Here, it feels like you've got two elements. You've got Catwoman, who probably is a little bit of a better fit as an antagonist rather than the Penguin. But here you've got Penguin, Catwoman, Max Schreck. You've got the political angle. You've got the Christmas angle. You've got a lot of stuff going on where you kind of there are things you could easily cut and easily remove and have a much more streamlined story. I mean, turning it into Batman versus Catwoman, okay, maybe you don't have the obvious grotesquerie, but there's a real conflict there, and and like the way you look at the first movie, you know who would have been a better villain than Joker? Two-Face, because you're setting two people who are exact equals, and the Batman and Joker are not equals. Here, Batman and Catwoman are equals in terms of what's driving them, their forces, and even they are realizing, like, hey, this is not healthy. Like, there's a big movie in that, but Burton is like, okay, it's like, oh, wait, wasn't there a Batman episode with Adam West where the Penguin ran for mayor? Hey, let's put that in. And I'm sure he called and said, hey, can we have Paul Revere and the Raiders come in for a gratuitous cameo? I mean, it just feels a little bit more overstuffed. It doesn't help that the first movie, both movies had Sam Hamm as a screenwriter. The first one, they brought Warren Scarron in to kind of help shape the script. Here they brought in Daniel Walters, who is Burton's collaborator, and here you can see where usually with screenwriters, if the director's saying something, the screenwriter can pretty much figure it out. Here you've got Sam doing whatever the heck he's like okay, yeah, let's do the parallel thing, and Daniel's let's just do whatever Tim wants. I mean, this movie is starting to feel a little overstuffed.
It's the beginning of that. This is really where that horrible trend with superhero movies begins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, prior to this, the three Kryptonians, who still are basically one villain, and with Lex Luthor kind of guiding them, that feels positively elegant compared to this. And it's because they have a reason to be together, because the three are sort of united as one, and then Lex Luthor has a reason to be involved with them. And all of it's motivated. But here, you know that this was an idea that emerged from a meeting with the studio executives saying, hey, I don't know how many of these we're going to have. Shit, let's give them Penguin and Catwoman, huh? Hey, guys, am I right? And you know what? They could have done it, too, if they had made the villains more clearly the alliance between Max Schreck and the Penguin. And I know how they should have handled the Penguin, because they were right on the verge of going there and they didn't do it, and it was a mistake. And then making Catwoman his girlfriend. They could never figure out just this one quintessential idea about Catwoman, and that is that she's not nearly as good a villain as she is a really interesting troubled hero who is to Batman what Batman is to the police. Yeah. She'll do a little Robin Hood stuff now and then, Robin the Rich, give it for, yeah, why not? But she's the one really breaking the rules. Yeah. She has no compunction about the occasional rapist, falling down a flight of stairs and things like that. And that she is suddenly the person, she's a reflector character for Batman. And the fact that they are romantically involved off and on is fantastic. She is a dark hero, in her own weird way, and really keeping her that way, and the main reason Batman wants to get her off the streets is that she's a loose cannon. He doesn't know what she'll do. Yeah. That's my opinion. But then the other thing is that the thing I think they should have done for Penguin, and they got so close, is that did the Cobblepots and the Waynes know each other?
Mm-hmm.
That's the big question, because he's about Bruce's age, and and was there another Cobblepot that they raised as, Osgood or whatever his name is, Oswald? Or was this just someone that they kind of denied and kept in the background? And what I think would be especially great is if he was the noble sufferer, sort of like Gabriel Collins. And it's like, oh, Bruce, you were always such a good friend, despite my many problems, my weird face and all of that. You're always there for me, and pals. And of course, he secretly hates him and is eager to take him down. And maybe even as Batman, the press starts to get too close. Robert Wool starts to get too close. So Batman has to do a few distancing things to distance himself from Bruce Wayne. So there's no way they could be that. So Oswald even feels like he has an ally in Batman against Bruce Wayne. You live in his shadow just as much as I do. Okay.
Yeah. I'll say this, like, I'm with you. They should have had the Cobblepots and Waynes know each other, because
it's obvious. Do they do that in the TV show Gotham?
Well, here's the thing. They in the movie The Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
they do sort of do that in a sense that Penguin knew, like the mob knew the Waynes, like the mob boss knew the Waynes and stuff.
Were the Cobblepots always a mob family, or were they a respectable family with a son who joins the mob?
Well, my interpretation, it seems like the Penguin was always a mob guy.
Yeah, and in Gotham, there's no direct link between the Cobblepots and the Waynes. What happens is Oswald starts as like a low-level crime guy and then works his way up to becoming a crime boss. And so he's like aware of Bruce Wayne. He knows of the Wayne family history. He knows the Waynes are a prominent family in Gotham, but there isn't the like kind of one-on-one direct, I do not, you knew me. Now, it's not the relationship that you're suggesting, like it's a friendship.
Okay. That, I mean, just with Pee-wee as his dad and whoever his mom is, Catherine O'Hara, whoever it is, this movie definitely posits him as a fallen blue blood. And why the hell didn't he go after the Cobblepots? I mean, to me, that's like that's number one, or does he? I don't remember.
Yeah. And I don't even remember if this was in the movie. There could have at least been a line that says like, yeah, I got after my parents years ago. Like establish that, okay, they are not, he's had his, somehow he's gotten his revenge on his parents for abandoning him, or they're no longer or that they're, they passed away before he could get his revenge. But something that gives him a little bit more. I mean, you could have relegated Penguin to like you flip the stories around. You make Catwoman your A story and the Penguin and Shrek your B story. Because that would make
this is just Hollywood 101. If I'm an executive at the studio and you show me a picture of Michelle Pfeiffer, you show me a picture of Danny DeVito, and you say, now, who do you want to look at for the majority of 2.5 hours?
Danny DeVito and a Mankini.
I'll say this with this movie. They're not necessarily saying he got after his parents, but Michael Keaton's Batman says, I think he knows who his parents are. Hinting that he knew all along who his parents really were, and sort of someone hinting, well, because he wasn't looking, when he's doing like the record stuff, he's not looking up his parents, he's looking up the names of the firstborn children. That's, that comes in the movie later on. So he knows who his parents are. It's more than, I know Burton doesn't come right out and say it, but I do think there's enough hints you can take away where he probably 86'd his parents years ago.
This whole firstborn business, and Burton's such a goyish director. What a surprise.
Yeah, it's kind of
Chef
one of those.
Boyardee.
Again, it's easy to kind of maybe forgive him because this is early on in his career. But when you know that he's had such an incredible, when you know the sins that he is capable of and that he has committed, including claiming that he'll never work for another studio again because he didn't like the kind of feedback and interference that Disney gave him on his live action remake of Dumbo. Like, really, Tim, now you're realizing that big studios like want control over their projects? Like,
Tim, please keep that promise. Please keep that promise. I love Ed Wood, but please keep that promise.
What did you guys think of Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman? Yeah.
She's very good. I mean, if we divorce how she looks in the suit, she looks great in the suit.
Mm-hmm.
She has what Uma Thurman also has, which is this sense of being a female drag queen in a celebratory sense. Drag is not misogynistic. Drag is this over-the-top celebration of the excesses of feminine design. And you can do that in a way that still maintains kind of a straight face, Or you can do that in a way that's just completely out of its mind, like Carmen Miranda, or speaking of somebody with vegetation on their head, Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. But this is a wonderfully serious female drag queen performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great. I mean, she understands theatricality in a way I wish I could get actors to understand more intuitively. That there are parts where it's okay to go there, and she does, and I love that about it.
Yeah, and I think she gives it the same kind of, she kind of plays it along similar notes to the way that Keaton plays Bruce Wayne and Batman. I mean, it's not the same performance. She's giving it a lot more nuance. But there's that scene where they're flirting out of costume, and they realize it's the things they're saying when they were in costume.
Yeah.
And in fact, Michelle Pfeiffer even says, "Does this mean we got to fight each other?" And I think again, that's why you want the Catwoman stuff to be up front and the Penguin stuff to be, because that's the more interesting dynamic. That's the story, not Penguin with his penguins and bombs and stuff.
Gordon, I think you just cited the best line in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is it witty and memorable and all of that stuff, but it matters. It encapsulates the most interesting part of this movie. Is like how, especially the way she delivers it, because it's not, so do we have to fight now? No, it's this, oh God, do we have to fight now? That I just thought, yes, I get it. I totally get it. It's like Julia and Angelique having that sit down talk, before Barnabas comes back. And what I would have been thrilled if Louis Malle had taken over the directing of this movie, and the two of them had just found a corner in Wayne Manor and sat down and talked about dual identities and about what are they going to do and the moral inversions that led them to where they are and everything else. That's the most interesting story in this movie.
I love how they make Selena Kyle Catwoman. Christopher Walken's character throws her out the window. She falls to her death, and a bunch of cats come along and start nibbling at her. And well,
yeah, I'm glad you liked it, but that fits right in with the weird, transmogrification, if that's a word, of the Penguin. I mean, that's just a moment where reality, even on the level that it was established in the first movie, just leaves. And that did disappoint me a little bit. That so there was no octahexagloop or something like that she got into that revived her. It's all it takes is cats. And that, I'll tell you, Joel, that's a problematic moment in the film, unless you're making a movie that has a totally different set of rules of living. Because when you make that choice, are there really stakes to any of the danger or the combat or the fighting or anything else? Because cats will lick you and bring you back to life. How tough are babies in Gotham, or how easy are the sewers that you can dump a kid into the sewer and he turns out, I mean, he's very intelligent. Where did he gain all this knowledge from? So that those things for me kind of eliminate the danger. I mean, yeah, there's a danger of falling into a vat of chemicals unless you have, a skeezy plastic surgeon at your disposal. Okay, I can buy that. That at least is a doctor, and they get him, and they do weird stuff to him and all of that. But, I mean, does Catwoman even really have an origin? Really? Or did she just decide to start doing this stuff?
well,
There's been some in comics. There's been some back and forth about. Usually, she's just portrayed as kind of a straightforward thief, who likes shiny things. Sometimes she's some, in the Long Halloween, it suggested that she's the illegitimate daughter of a crime boss
Yeah.
who wants to let his, the crime boss kind of disowned her, never really acknowledged her, so she was looking for that acknowledgement. In others, she's a sex worker who just happens to who cares for cats, and she decides she's going to do it. I think for this movie, it would have been similar to just like she's the mousy little, um, she's still that kind of reserved, mousy, you know, office worker. And then when she's thrown out the window, she manages to get up, but then she sees like a cat actually, like she watches a cat fall and it's gets on its hind legs and walks away, and she realizes, aha, I'm tired of being a mouse. I need to be a cat. Something where you see the moral shift versus cat licking her back to life.
I agree. I had something in there, but it's gone now. Doesn't matter.
Can I tell you why I love that?
Sure.
Burton's decision with that. Number one, you have really up until this point, you could make the debate. Well, Batman has fought the Joker, who only got dumped in some crazy acid and dealt with a crazy surgeon. We've debated the whole Jack thing. That's another matter. We have the Penguin, who's a penguin, and you have a normal girl in Selena Kyle who gets thrown out a window, and here these cats are biting at her and licking her, and then she comes back with these multiple lives now. But as she's sort of destroying her apartment, she's in the same sense she's sort of actually okay. No, she knows who she is, but what am I now? Well, like it's a really good duality question of okay, am I now literally going to have these cat-like reflexes and abilities? Like, it's a great little, and she does. It's really like how she moves and stuff. Michelle Pfeiffer did a great job doing that.
But if I may, when you look at the first movie, falls into the acid and he's at a cheesy plastic surgeon. Napier becomes the Joker because he looks at his face and he realizes his face is stuck in a smile, and he snaps and he realizes it's not the accident that makes him, but it's all very logical and understanding. I mean, if you accept that, falling into a vat of acid is only just going to make your skin turn white and your hair turn green, it makes a certain amount of logical sense. With this film, part of it is that Burton is starting to lean a little bit more into the fantastic. You could get that, okay, Cobblepot is a deformed guy who the parents leave him in the sewer rather than what most people would do is put the kid in an orphanage or, leave him to elsewhere. So you could kind of see where.
Buy him some mittens.
Well, you can kind of see where, like you can kind of, but saying, okay, she's thrown out a window, cats breathe in one of their numerous 9 lives, whatever. That just seems out of the vague. And it's one of the problems. It's why I don't think these films, and spoiler when we talk about the other two Batman films, it's why I don't think any of these films have really aged that well. Not just in terms of style, but in terms of screenplay, because they're both very much that kind of traditional. To me, the mark of a good film is if I watch it, and I can't outguess the movie. I can't see where a scene is going. Even if I've watched it 20,000 times, I still know that there's a surprise in there. And with Batman Returns, it feels too much like, oh, let's just throw wacky stuff. And it feels more like, and again, it was, and I know that part of the reason why Burton left was that the studio wanted a family-friendly movie, and this is not a very family-friendly movie. I mean, it's it's a semi-organized mess, but it's still kind of a mess.
It is a mess. Yeah, it's a more confident mess.
Mm-hmm.
It is a better looking mess in the style of the movie in terms of its costumes and its props, and
Mm-hmm.
feels a little more internally consistent. Even with Max Schreck's weird suits, well, he's got the weird hair, so he's kind of a flashy public figure, so we'll give him that. Um, yeah, yeah, but it is a mess. It's none with the. I'm going to hell for saying this, and you just got to forgive me because it doesn't mean it's a good movie. It's just how it made me feel. The only of these Batman movies, there are only two Batman movies that really made me feel what I wanted to feel when I walked out of the theater that I was hoping for when I walked in. And one of all things was Batman and Robin. It's like, the team, yay, and they're running at the camera and there's Batgirl and ooh, it's fun. And I was okay with that because that's a side of Batman. That's very Silver Age kind of raw team Batman. And I like that. And then the end of Batman Begins, which to me is still the best of any of these movies. Um, because in Batman Begins, there's one crucial thing that no other Bat film really used and really seized upon properly. And that was Bruce Wayne's optimism. That Bruce Wayne is not doing this, oh, my parents died. Not that that's a reason to not have trauma and be sad and so on and so forth, but that he's going to make sure that he creates a Gotham City, part of it in the day, part of it at night, where no kid has to go through that.
Yeah.
And that optimism, where he says, Gotham deserves better. Wow. Those are, to me, that's Batman's real motto. And so I didn't get that in this. It does have, I think, a really beautiful final shot and beautiful final words. Although they are very early 90s gender conscious, as he say, and women or something like that. And I was like, oh, all right. But more just Merry Christmas, Alfred. And that God just ended on that. It really very, very, very beautiful. But it's still, what was I supposed to feel walking out of the theater? Like, okay.
Yeah, I think the only good Batman movie that came out around this time was animated and called Mask of the Phantasm.
I watched that just last week. It's a great movie. Have you ever seen that, Jewel?
Yes. Great
You
movie.
sound like you're being punished. Did you not like it?
No, that movie I did like.
And that has the courage to be a mob story.
Mm-hmm.
And just a mob story, basically, and it does it well. You talk about your Batman as detective. That's your Batman as detective.
Well, I think the thing of it is, look, to me, when people ask me, well, who was your Batman growing up? I don't say Michael Keaton. I say Kevin Conroy.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to Michael, but to me, I more grew up watching Batman the animated series than more so the movies.
As it should be.
See, I grew up with Adam West.
Yeah.
And the great thing about growing up with Adam West, if you're a little kid when you are introduced to him, is that show is like the Giving Tree. It's everything you need as it's happening. When you're a kid, you take it seriously, and it's great. And then when you develop a sense of irony, it's waiting for you there also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Adam West, I saw the Adam West ones in syndication. I watched the movie. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Written by Gordon Dymowski.
Is that Beardo's book? Did Beardo?
Yeah, it's part of Mr. Beard's book.
I don't know. I'm gonna call him Beardo. He seems like a nice guy. Writes about GI Joe. I like that.
Well, I actually have an essay in the Joy of Joe, which came out earlier. So
Really?
Yes.
What do you talk about?
I talk about the fact that when I grew up, I had the actual real 12-inch G.I. Joe and not the little dinky ones from the 80s.
Yeah.
I had some of the last. I got mine in 75. I got a whole story about that. And it was the Paratrooper.
You know who got me into G.I. Joe? Though, no, Sergeant Slaughter.
Here, in fact, for the viewers out there, a slight digression because we've been dunking on this movie. 2 paragraphs from my essay entitled "You're No Sham, Shame." Neil Hamilton provides one of the best straight man performances, not only in The Great Escape / The Great Train Robbery, but throughout the entire Batman series. Like Bud Abbott, Margaret Dumont, and Dick Smothers, Hamilton knows precisely how to react and deliver his lines without any sense of mugging or playing to the audience. His performance as Commissioner Gordon is one of the cornerstones of the series, and this episode brings out his best. Part of me secretly wonders if he and Margaret Dumont shared stories over lunch at the Paramount Studios lot. After all, he was a day player and she was working with the Marx Brothers. At the very least, he would have learned lessons that helped him work with Stafford Rep as the second banana, serving as Chico Marx or Larry Fine of the Three Stooges. There's nothing wrong with Stafford Rep, by the way. Heck, he's the one who provides a vital clue that drives the story along. Plus, he's one of the few actors who had worked with Adam West and Orson Welles. And if you're still unsure about Hamilton and his acting ability, check out the Bolero Shield episode of The Outer Limits. Then look me in the eye and tell me I'm wrong. There,
That's
can't.
very good, Gordon. That's very, very good. And it's praise way overdue. Here's a question I have about Neil Hamilton, because this is something to be asked about Margaret Dumont. Was he in on the joke?
I think he has to be. You don't give that kind of performance without knowing the joke. It's like Tommy Smothers, who passed away.
God bless him.
I grew up listening to his albums, and you know, in performance, he's an idiot. But when you saw interviews with him, very smart, very precise, very direct. When you watching the movie Animal Crackers, there's a scene in the middle of the movie. It's Chico's at the piano, and Groucho's making his little wisecracks. Dumont's in the background, and you can see her actually rolling her eyes and smiling like, I can't believe he's saying this. They were in on the joke, but the way you play a straight person is that you don't play as if you're in on the joke.
Oh, of course. I don't know how much Maggie Dumont was in on the joke. I mean, the stuff I've heard is that she really didn't get it. And I would love to think that's true. That she understood something funny was being said, but I'm sure through rehearsal, she was just there to pick up a check.
Mm-hmm.
Every story I've ever heard is that Maggie Dumont was not. She was very smart, but it was just like humor from Mars. It'd be like showing one of Rembrandt's patrons, something by Dali. It's like, what is this? So Neil Hamilton, I don't know. I mean, I would respect him deeply either way. Because, you think about the scenes that he shot were in a fairly normal office.
Mm-hmm.
He was not encountering a lot of the wackier elements, certainly until he saw it all cut together. Even his conversations with Batman are often over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, that doesn't denigrate him as an actor whatsoever. It's just an academic question.
Well, I think when you look at his actual performance, when he's talking with Chief O'Hara, there's only one person who can handle this great affair. You can tell that it's that very 1930s stagey, like you can tell he did a lot of work as a day player because he has that performance, that kind of old-timey performance. But you can't give that performance and not take it, that kind of performance and not really take it. You have to at least understand that, you're doing something that is goes against the grain, that it kind of has to fit. It would be
gives
like
it.
saying that Adam West wasn't in on the joke.
Oh yeah, no. And clearly he is. Um, it, Stafford Rep as O'Hara and Neil Hamilton as Gordon, I think, are probably the secret elements that really make that series work, because they ground everything in a sense of realistic consequences. That this is for real. Yeah.
I mean, that's what Pat Hingle needed in both Batman films, was like a chief to play against.
He is Commissioner Gordon, though.
But no, I'm talking about Chief O'Hara.
Yeah.
He needed that kind of.
I think
Yeah, he did. That should have been the William Hootkins part, instead of making Hootkins the corrupt cop.
Pat
Because
Hingle
Hootkins is very talented.
Pat Hingle's Commissioner Gordon gets better use in the first movie than the second.
I guess, but does it really feel like Commissioner Gordon in either movie?
In the first one, it does.
Really?
Yeah, I would. To me, Pat Hingle, I think, did it right.
He doesn't have much to do.
Yeah, it seems like it's like, okay, Pat, here's a script, here's your bottle of bourbon as payment, have at it.
Well, here's the thing, though. When you're watching the first movie, you do get the sense that because Batman Begins touched upon this, and so did the next movie after that. With with the first Batman movie, Commissioner Gordon, when he's told about a card, he suspects a card is dirty. He sort of somewhat,
You can smell it.
like this Commissioner Gordon that Pat Hingle plays in the first one, he suspects there's mob involvement within his police force, but he needs to prove it, though, and that's something I've always picked up from Pat Hingle watching his performance.
Don't sit on a bench in a locker room after him unless you want to pick up something else from Pat Hingle. Continue.
But honestly, that's just something I picked up from his character watching him, because when there's a party in the first Batman movie at Bruce Wayne's house, and Alfred notices that Commissioner Gordon and a police officer are talking, and when you hear it back, you hear the full conversation, but at the tail end, he goes, "Who's in charge? Who's in charge of the Ace Chemicals thing?" And he says, "A card." He's like, "Oh my god," because he suspects the card is dirty. That's something I picked, because he somewhat suspects a card is dirty in the movie. He can't prove it, but he suspects it at least.
He knows a dirty card when he's
That's
around.
why he knows. He goes, "Oh my god," because why would he go, "Oh my god," other than that?
He opened it up and it said, "I don't know, I've never kippled," and that's how he knew it was a dirty card.
But
do you know that card, Joel? You ever gotten that one?
You really want
guy and a girl on the cover, and the guy says, "Hey, do you like Kipling?" And he opened it up, and she says, "I don't know, I've never kippled."
But that's just my opinion. I like Pat Hingle's Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, he's not bad. It's just it's a very it's just I think that the kindest thing I can say is just a very perfunctory performance. Like, he does his job, but it's you don't get the sense of like urgency that, say, Gary Oldman has in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Put Sam Elliott in a raincoat, and then it's Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
And that honestly is some of it, because not only do you have kind of an inert Commissioner Gordon, but you have a character design that looks nothing like the way I've seen Commissioner Gordon for the past God knows how many years. There's nothing Gordonic about him. And that sort of, also is weird. It's like, why are you in your dress blues? Would you come back from a funeral? But and the reason I harp on that is that comic books are about icons and about visuals. And that is such a distinct look, that the Commissioner Gordon look is as trademark to Batman as anything else. That, you know, maybe his look varies the least from, you know, Silver Age to you know, through Neil Adams and into the Bronze Age and Iron Age or whatever else it
And
was.
even less than look, it's also about vibe. Because Commissioner Gordon he's the guy who he knows the cops are dirty, but he isn't. He's going to do his best to make sure that Gotham City's protected, even if that means relying on a guy who dresses in a bat suit and he's bending the law a little bit. He will not break. He will not bend. He'll bend somewhat, but he's very moral. He knows what side of the ledger he's on. He's not Harvey Dent, who has to flip a coin to make a decision. He knows what the right decision is. And Pat Hingle, you look at him, he looks like he should be behind a desk shuffling papers and eating donuts. I mean, he doesn't have that kind of moral.
Joel, I have a question.
At it. J.K. Simmons in the Snyder movies seem to have it somewhat. I haven't seen the Batman, so I don't know if Jeffrey Wright has it.
Jeffrey Wright has it. Jeffrey Wright. Yeah, he has it. Now, here's a question, Jewel. If Pat Hingle had made a breakfast cereal and called it Hingleberries, would you have eaten it?
What's that?
If Pat Hingle had a breakfast cereal and named it Hingleberries, would you have eaten it?
No.
Okay,
If you're,
good.
let me ask you a question. If your doctor told you you had a serious case of Hingleberries, how quickly would you fill that prescription?
I'd call Tim Burton. I'd say, Tim, grab a camera. I got the next.
Because I've got a
Gordon
serious
scene
case
right
of
behind me.
Hingleberries, and it is not pleasant.
Hingle.
He likes it.
Oh my god.
Big bowl of them.
What's you guys' favorite
crispy
scene
and milk.
What's you guys' favorite scene in this movie?
My favorite is the one between towards the end with Keaton and Pfeiffer, where they're, it's the flirting, and she says, "Oh, does that mean we got to fight now?" That's my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, I like it when Bruce unnecessarily unmasks himself, and it tears so easily. But I seriously, there's just something very honest about that moment. I don't even know what's going on. But that visual, now that's a visual that clearly Burton came up with, because that's a director's moment. And it works. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but it works.
I love how my favorite scene is Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman wrecking her apartment. Because
she's on your shoulder, Jewel. There's Catwoman.
Yes, meow.
Meow.
I'm trying to get warm. I'm cold.
All right, that's the place.
You better be careful, because Joel just admitted he had a case of the Hingleberries.
Ooh, really?
And he's just cleaned your litter box.
Ooh. Let's go check out these Hingleberries.
Yeah, you better go buy some bleach tomorrow, like a couple of gallons of it.
Nah, it's all right. I like whatever he's got. Been with you like what? 21
Jules
years?
is. I'll tell you what, Mrs. Sains. Jules's OnlyFans page is really taking off.
How's it? Good.
Oh yeah.
Next time you make me that money.
Money. Wow.
Yeah.
Ow.
OnlyFans they have to pay.
OnlyFans.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
especially now
right.
that there's a gold and a platinum level sponsorship on OnlyFans.
Let me take care of the subscribers, okay?
Look at that. God. Look at that. That's a happy new year.
Oh my god.
I think the ball just dropped.
Woo! Pick it up. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Hey.
What?
It's gonna get better.
My wife has bought herself some alcohol.
All right. The party has begun.
Yeah,
You'll have to drink them for you and Jewel.
Yeah.
That'll be our next broadcast in about a half hour.
I'll drink all 12 cans.
She'll drink all 12
hold on.
cans.
It's Jewel in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. But
yeah, we're having a Seagram and Gummies party.
Oh my God. Is there
Gummies, That's got the gummies.
is there anything you guys want to
Yeah,
add about
that's what it is.
Batman Returns before we get out of here?
The BM returned.
Jordan.
I'm not sure.
Oh, my hand.
I think I've in expressing my feelings, I think I've beaten that particular dead horse to a bloody pulp.
Only cats can come by and lick it back to life. Which, by the way, happened to, in the opposite sense, happened to the woman who played Aunt B, Frances Bavier. The rumor, she was a mean old lady, and she had like 18 cats. And the rumor is she died in her home, and because in South Carolina or something, because she was a mean old lady, people were not exactly dropping by to play canasta, you know. And eventually she didn't show up, you know, at the grocery or wherever once a week for her stuff, and they sent the cops over on a wellness check. And her cats had eaten well.
Oh,
Andy.
Start at the top for that.
Andy.
Start at the toes.
Andy, the cats are eating me. Oh.
Ooh.
oh my God.
No.
Aunt B's
God.
corpse was allegedly eaten by her own
Hey,
cats.
it's been a long night, even though I was only there for a couple hours.
I know. She just got home from work. But
Let the party begin.
Make that holiday, baby.
link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page is going to be in the description box. Links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook About is going to be in the description.
People.
Yeah, buy it. The Unbound is going to be in the description box. You heard my wife, buy it. So, guys,
Buy 3 copies.
Yeah, buy 3 copies. Each, yeah. There you go.
Gift it.
Yeah, there you go.
I have no idea what sounds will be heard once this.
I'm trying to help you, Patrick.
I know,
Like,
and I appreciate
Make 'em
it.
stop.
You are the ally that we need.
tomorrow night, Batman Forever, right?
That's right. Now listen, Jewel, when Dark Shadows fans tune in and see you, they see who they want to be. And when they see me, they see who they are.
I'd like to think they see me and probably like, I look.
Yeah,
I look,
and when they say me, they think, oh God, Gordon has to deal with the both of them.
What a smooth devil.
Gordon needs a raise too.
Well, at least this way, Jewel can actually go to conventions cosplaying as veteran director Coleman Francis.
Right now I feel like Q at the end of a Bond movie where the television snaps on and we see Bond saying, "Oh yes, attempting re-entry," or whatever he says.
It is great to see these 2 gentlemen in the new year, first day of the new year, guys. See you tomorrow night. Well, tomorrow night.
Okay, treat your back well.
Bye.